first episode, man. Grant, thanks for joining me. I know you're helping me produce the show and get things rolling. How's it going?
It's going good. What you drinking?
Get right to the whiskey, huh? That is the most important part of this entire podcast is drinking whiskey while we have the conversation. It's how we form our sentences in the poor ways they will be formed.
Born and raised in the Midwest, right?
That's right. That's our Wisconsin blood. So I'm actually drinking one of my favorites. I think it's my absolute favorite Tennessee whiskey. They were originally around pre-Prohibition, and they unfortunately floundered in 1909 due to Tennessee's own Prohibition. The great-great-grandkids, I think great-great-great-grandkids, 3 times great, found the old distillery that their grandfather had originally created when he had emigrated here from Germany. And they decided, hey, let's start that up. Let's make the family, take up the family name and do this. And they had the same last name, so they were able to keep all the copyrights and keep everything going. So in 2012, I think it was, they restarted the distillery, started making some Belle Meade bourbon, which everyone's very familiar with. It's a pretty popular bourbon across the states now. Distribution's pretty big. And back in the day, they used to make Belle Meade too, but they finally just released with the same exact recipe and the same exact label, Nelson's Brier, Tennessee handmade sour mash whiskey. And I'm going to show the camera here just to show the label. It is a beautiful label, and it is to die for. It is my absolute favorite sipping Tennessee whiskey, non-bourbon. I'm more of a bourbon drinker, but sometimes the Tennessee whiskey is good. Very caramely, full of vanilla. It even has on the back notes is very cinnamon and sweet, which a lot of whiskeys don't. It tapers off too soon, and I think this has a really real long palate of the mouth, and I love that. But it's very good, and this will be what I'm sipping tonight. So what do you have in your hand?
That's awesome. That sounds excellent. I'm actually been looking for. You've been talking it up for so long. I really want to try that at some point. And obviously, it's not available here in Wisconsin yet. But this is actually just a limited release distiller's cut of Jim Beam. Jim Beam's my go-to bourbon whiskey. Definitely my favorite. I can just drink it straight, and often a little bit too much. But yeah, I only bring it out for very special occasions, and I thought, what better occasion than our inaugural episode? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I got to ask you before we go any further. So I see you have ice in there. Are you usually an ice man or are you a neat man? What does it depend on?
I'm rocks all the way. Yeah.
Rocks.
Yeah.
For me, it depends. Especially if it's a warm summer day, I'm outside in the heat, having a nice cigar, having conversation with people around a picnic table or something in the sun. I'm gonna want something cooler. But usually I like it neat. However, I will say with Scotch, and as the podcast goes on, we'll explore more of my palate. But Scotch, I will like just a couple drops of water. It really brings out some aromas. And I'm also learning how to aerate whiskey now, which I only thought was a wine thing, but hey, science.
Yeah, gotta love it. Absolutely.
So, all right. So this is the first podcast that we're doing to put on the site and on our YouTube channel. And for all you out there listening, we're launching this on June 1st. This is when this will be available. And it's going to be on Spotify, YouTube. It'll be on our website. We're going to try to put the RSS feed for all the different podcast platforms to be available. We are new to this. We're just going to have some fun. And, we're not really in this to make any kind of money. If we end up making some side cash or doing whatever, great. But that's not the point of this. A lot of people get into this thinking they're going to make a quick, easy buck. And that's not easy. You're not all going to be Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan got there because he was doing stuff prior to podcasting. But, I would be remiss if I didn't ask for you to throw some help our way. We do have a Patreon account, and the links are in the description. We also have a PayPal for donations if you do like our content, if you do want us to keep going and help us out, just to pay our monthly subscriptions for certain things like our website.
I was going to add in that every little bit of it's going to probably go back into the show, especially in this first year or so. And I'd love to do it, just keep doing it. Like a year is pretty hopeful.
Oh yeah.
Thought, but we're like you said, we're just starting off, and so far it's been a lot of fun. I mean, we were obviously friends here in Milwaukee, and we've since. I mean, obviously we've been very isolated these last couple of months for obvious reasons, but it's been great. Just at least bi-weekly talking to you guys pretty regularly, and I think it's brought our relationships closer together. Our friendship has strengthened because of it too, and I want to keep it fun.
No, I agree. I will say too, it's funny how we had the technology to use Zoom and Skype and Facebook Messenger video chat and FaceTime and whatnot, and none of us did that until now, when we were actually required to. We maybe a phone call here or there or a text, but never a face-to-face like this. But now I will say, with all my work meetings and talking to friends, and I do Sunday Zooms with with some friends across the country just to catch up, I'm dreaming in face tiles, screen tiles of people now. Like, I don't know how to interact with actual human beings. It's getting bad. Well, anyway, so let's just go into it, because that's a good launching point. COVID-19 is obviously the big current affair right now, but everyone's forgetting that. I don't know, I shouldn't say that. People aren't forgetting, but it's kind of overshadowing the fact that it's on the eve of the 2020 election that's happening in not that many months away. November? So we don't know what's going to happen this summer. We don't know how things are going to go open up. If the Democratic National Convention is going to happen in Milwaukee in June. They pushed it back, I think, to July. I'm not 100% sure, and I think they're trying to look at doing it just for 1 or 2 days rather than the 3 or 4 that it was supposed to be. And they might even still do it virtually. So, lots of things that we have to think about. And also voting. Mail-in voting is a giant contention point right now, and Republicans think that they don't do as well with mail-in voting, and there's higher risk for voter fraud. But, I mean, regardless, we have another election that is going to be one of the most divisive and eye-rolling elections in our nation's history.
That's an interesting way to put it. I've never heard that. Eye rolling. Yeah, that's weirdly accurate.
Well, if you think about it, we 2016 happened, and it was after the 8 years we had President Obama. And whether you like Obama or not, you have to agree that he is a great orator. He's eloquent when he speaks. He's very presentable. He oozes that John Kennedy type presidential factor, right? Oh, yeah. He looks the part. And it was a monumental thing to have, the first African American president who had all this hopey, changey talk in the very beginning of his political career, coming from Chicago, right? He had this amazing story, and for worse or for better, he did the job, right? He didn't have much controversy. He didn't really have that many issues. He just kind of did his job, and it was on the heels of President Bush and the horrible economy that had been given to him. Not necessarily Bush's fault completely, but, I think we've been set up for a really up and down economy from the beginning. I think it doesn't matter. It just happens to be in those shoes. And Obama, for whether you don't like him or do like him, he at least had this leadership quality. He was agreeable in a lot of ways. Even if you didn't agree with what he was saying or what his policy prescription was, he still was able to talk to you. He just like Bush. But George Bush had this, like, I could sit down and have a beer with him. That was his entire appeal. So that, whatever. Politics aside, that you can't disagree with just them as people. But then you go to 2016 and you have the horrible divisiveness in the DNC versus Bernie and Hillary. Bernie, who is this old white guy who looks like he's crazy, has crazy hair, but he's a nice old grandpa who you could probably give a hug to, and you could tell that he does really emotionally care about people. I believe that.
And he's consistent too. That's a big one.
Yeah, for the past 40 years he's been consistent on the Senate floor, and before that the House. But but he has very left-wing, socialist, progressive ideas that a lot of people who are right of center don't even think is possible or even worth looking at. And fine, but you can't disagree that he's a nice guy. I'm pretty sure I've heard representatives on the right, like Dan Crenshaw or Ted Cruz, say that Bernie's a great guy. Like Rick Santorum, I think, was on Bill Maher talking about how much of a nice guy Bernie is. They just don't agree with his policies, and I think that is so important, and it's lacking right now. Hillary did not have that. Hillary had that exclusively on the left, and exclusively on the left after Bernie lost. It's like that was their option. It's like she was waiting in line for her turn, and she also just has no likability, no electability. And then the other side was Trump. Out of the field of 17 Republican candidates who all had their shortcomings, as all the left candidates did, but they went with Trump, a game show host that we never thought was going to get into political life. He just likes to talk out of the side of his mouth and tweet, and he's a game show host. He likes to go off the cuff, and it works for him. He's a marketing genius. Say what you will about Trump, but he knows how to play the camera. He really does.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so we, of course, that election happened. We know what happened. We know who won. We know the posters were wrong. Everything was just crazy. But my point is that we went from Obama, who was more of an even-keeled type, like, okay, we disagree. Yes, of course, there were some, flames that were fanned here and there were protests here and there, and gun rights and all these hot-button issues that still existed back then, of course. But they never felt the way to the degree that they are today. And Trump won, and whether he's doing a good job or not, I'm not one to say. I'm not a big fan of how he speaks. My biggest point has always been rhetoric matters. Mm-hmm. Policy, to me, nowadays is so secondary because our culture needs to change. We cannot continue to be this divisive. So now 2020 comes along. Out of the field of 20,000 Democrats that were running, it seemed like, you had lots of qualified, wonderful people. And then you also had some people that didn't even seem qualified, but were qualified after you listened to them more. Andrew Yang, a business guy who's never been a politician, had all these crazy ideas. You go to his, I shouldn't say crazy, had these really insightful and innovative ideas.
Yeah, they look a lot less crazy now, right?
Yeah, right, yeah,
These last
exactly.
2 months, yeah.
Universal basic income might become something we need. He just released a report before we got on this chat that 43% of the businesses or the workforce that was lost during COVID-19 will not return. Yeah. So what do you do with those people? It's not their fault that this happened. It partly is government's fault because of the shooting from the hip type, like, oh, we got to close everything down because none of us knew to the extent what this virus would be. Yeah. But so Andrew Yang was kind of shushed from the beginning. There was even reports from the first couple debates that they were turning his mic off or silencing his mic so that the prime candidates, Kamala Harris and Biden and Elizabeth Warren, could speak. But Tulsi Gabbard, I'm a big fan of her. And not because of policy. I think because of the rhetoric, the way they talk about their policy, the way that they want to approach the problems in a way that doesn't dismiss half the country. It isn't my way or the highway. It's our way. We have to figure out how to do this together because we can. Just because Trump won, and just because we might think some of his voters are insane for ever having voted for him. That's not fair to those voters. There's a reason why Trump won, and Yang was big on that. He knew that the reason why Trump won is because of the failings of the Democrats and the establishment GOP. Everyone felt lost, and they wanted this, whether they agreed with him or not. They wanted this new change, and for the Democrats to not realize that, and now they're putting up Joe Biden.
I was going to say, now who's our prospective Democratic candidate going into this election?
Right.
Well, let's touch on that. Like, what are some of the issues you see with putting someone like Biden up in this election at this time against Trump? Where do you start? Right.
Right. Yeah. I think number one for me is the fact that it feels as if the left, or I shouldn't say the left, the Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment, so misses Obama. Mm-hmm. They think that taking Biden will be their return to grace, which, fine. I understand that because he was the vice president. He was very close to Obama. Mm-hmm. But Biden wasn't anything really except for a long-term senator until Obama picked him as vice president.
Right.
His record's a little spotty on criminal justice. He never was for anything that the Democrats or the progressive had been for. And all of a sudden, he's now touting these progressive ideas that he never agreed with. And he's just kind of this, it's like Weekend at Bernie's, Weekend at Biden's. Like he's up there just kind of saying what the DNC platform is, like a puppet, right?
Right.
So that's my initial issue. My initial issue is that he's running on the coattails of Obama. It's like, it's almost like he's just saying in all his ads, okay, we want to fix the spirit of the country. And so the argument is that the spirit of the country has been broken because of Trump, which to me isn't true. Trump isn't the cause. He is a side effect. And I'm not saying that's a bad side effect. A side effect is just a side effect, right? It's good or bad. He getting the presidency is just a result of where our culture headed. And
Okay.
for Biden to say that we need to restore the spirit of this country, it's kind of the same way we scratch our head when Donald Trump says "Make America Great Again."
Mhm.
Well, okay, even in our worst times, we've still been pretty much the greatest country in the world with the most freedom and the most, generally, we've had some dark times, that's for sure. But
Right.
what does "Make America Great Again" really mean? Again, can we make it like better, or I don't know. That's the same way Biden is saying let's fix the spirit of this country. No, you just want to go back to what Obama's doing. It's like I can read in between the lines every time he says it. It's like, hey, remember Obama? I was his vice president. Let's go back to when things were great.
Right. Well, let's take a look at, because earlier you were talking about, and you started off with Obama and how he was this very stately candidate, and starting off he had this message of hope, and he was very well spoken, and obviously he went from that to Trump, and now let's take a look at like Biden versus Obama. Like, do you think that he possesses those similar stately ability to just speak, or like?
Well, he did 20 years ago.
Okay. How about now?
No, Biden has always been kind of a rambler. If you watch
Okay.
any of his speeches on C-SPAN, again, they archive everything from the Senate floor. And of course, when he was vice president, he kind of rambles. He doesn't really. He's unable to focus on a point very well.
Mhm.
He just kind of. And I'll tell you what, and this is what's important, and this is and another thing, and this is what and then I'll tell you. Look here, Jack. I'm going to tell you this, and he's all over the place, and he does it worse now. I really hate to say that he's in cognitive decline, even though it's so clear to me. I'm not a doctor, and I don't want to go down that path of saying clearly this man has dementia because,
Of speculating just based off of like his speaking ability, yeah. But
And-
there's a definite. I mean, people would always bring up with Trump, like you would read like what he said in quotation form, and you'd be like, I can't make sense of this. And you look at what Biden says and like write that out and try to read it. It's like on a different level of, I don't understand what's being said here. Like you said, there's a rambling, but on top of that, there's an inability to like finish a point or like bring it to, it's very all over the place, and he gets lost in thought. And I wonder, like, when you actually, if like, so say we actually do have like in-person debates in like October before the November election.
right.
Like, what does that look like between these two people? Like, if we do actually put up Biden as like, this is who's going to run against this person. Like, compare that to Hillary in any of the debates from the last election.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Hillary could wipe the floor with Joe Biden. Hillary.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She, whether you like her or not, I mean, even Trump admitted that he respects her fight. He respects her tenacity. She is a strong-willed. If it weren't for her politics and her political record and her corruption, that to me is so clear. I mean, any politician of that level has skeletons in their closet. I mean, that's just it's part of the job, unfortunately, nowadays. And it really shouldn't be, and that should be what we're focusing on changing. And maybe that's what Trump was. Everyone thought that, okay, well, he's a businessman. Corruption in the business world isn't the same as corruption in the political world, because political world, you have bigger implications. Corruption in the business world, you're just kind of stepping on a couple people to build a building. That's how people perceive it, right? I'm not saying that's how it is, but Hillary has, if it weren't for those things, I would tell every young woman in America to look up to her as the shining beacon of amazing strength and what women can accomplish. But there's so many other better examples than Hillary Clinton.
Right.
I mean, Oprah. I mean, come on. She. But that being said, that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. But that being said, she would wipe the floor with Joe Biden because she has the ability to make concise and coherent thought. Biden, it's like this. I don't know what happened, because I don't remember him being this terrible when he spoke back during the Obama years. And maybe it is cognitive. Maybe he's just getting older. Maybe it's getting more difficult. Who knows? But whenever you watch the videos of him being in a rally or during the campaign or on the debate stage or now when he's in his basement with Zoom, like I don't know if that rhetoric is better than Trump, who also speaks very poorly. I think they both speak at like a 4th or 5th grade level, and that's what we're electing. Those are the choices we have.
I don't mean to be mean, but is that what the people of the country are going to respond to at this point?
No.
No.
Well,
what do you think they would respond to? Like, really, truly. Past just the populism of Trump or anything like that. Like, who's the ideal candidate that you could put up?
Justin Amash, get back in the race.
Okay.
That's a libertarian dream, right? And I'm fairly libertarian, but I'm also like I'm not the libertarian that's arguing for everyone should have the right to own a nuke,
right.
which happened on C-SPAN. Someone back in the day argued, based on principle, to be consistent across the platform, yes, it's a terrible idea, but people should own nukes. No, I think the Libertarian Party has gotten so far in the weeds of silliness. Mm-hmm. I mean, Vermin Supreme is leading the party right now. He has the most votes, and
yeah, that's sad.
Yeah, and he's a satirical candidate, and
if you look at any you look at the 2-party system and any actual like part of the spectrum that could be put up as a legitimate third party, you usually look to the Libertarian Party,
right?
And so that's what makes it almost devastating. It's like that's who's that's who we have right now.
Well,
it's a joke.
You think about it too; they are the true independent right now, because you have on the right you have not the GOP, because the GOP in the last how many years has not given a shit about spending. Right. Our deficit has gone way up under Trump. Our deficit went way up under Bush. Yes, the deficit also went way up under Obama. Guess what? It doesn't matter who's in office, Republican or Democrat. The deficit will keep going up because none of you do what you say you're going to do, and you keep spending money on things. It's like the military spending. It's not about the spending. It's not the amount you spend. It's how you spend it. Why is it so difficult to make that argument? The Libertarians do. The Libertarians understand that you need to have socially liberal things, do what the hell you want. If you want to have gay marriage, get gay married. If you want to do this, do that. It is not any skin off my back. And also, I don't want to tax you. I don't want to spend more than we have. I want less government and empower the people, allow innovation to occur. And there are certain things we can look at and different nuances and case-by-case basis for all these different things, right? But COVID-19 has shown now that overregulation has restricted our ability in local communities to respond adequately, and now we're all looking to the federal government, watching Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx on TV every day. Oh, please, what will you do? Oh, please, another stimulus check, Mr. Trump. We can't do that, and we can't continue that. And now the Libertarians are now kind of starting to come out of the woodwork, being more of a fruitful idea house. And then Justin Amash, who is a former Republican, now he's independent in the House out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. He's, for all intents and purposes, a libertarian. He's not card carrying, but he was running for the Libertarian Party and for his exploratory campaign. And I think he spent 3 weeks with them and said, no, this ain't gonna work, because the party itself is kind of a joke, and they also have they are very cannibalistic, just like the Democrats are. They don't like people who don't have the same exact thoughts. It's like, you want any semblance of government, you're not a libertarian. I'm sorry. I want there to be street signs. Like we should have a happy medium, right? A conversation. But so this is to your point. What do people respond to? I think people respond to emotion, and I think Trump offers the emotion of anger, and I don't know, lust for change, and getting rid of the swamp, and this is all terrible, and things are American carnage, like he said in his inaugural address. Things that make people very angry and call to arms, and not that they're going to do anything bad, but they you feel it, screw the system, this is stupid, that everyone in Washington sucks, and Trump said so, and I like him. Okay, people respond to that. Biden's not offering an alternative. He's just saying Trump's bad. The orange man is bad, and therefore vote for me. and if you're not voting for me, then you ain't black, as his current quote that's circulating, because he says stupid things. I mean, he was on Charlemagne the God's radio show, Breakfast Club, and he said that. How are you the Democratic nominee?
Add that to the list of things that are coming up against Biden, not to include the recent allegations made about him. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to get into that. That's a whole different conversation we can bring up.
No, but they're all disqualifying for me. They are all disqualifying, and the Democratic Party had a bunch of quality candidates that they didn't give any kind of time to, because I think deep down they knew that they wanted Biden. Biden was their guy. They thought it was the safest bet. It was the easiest way to beat Trump, and everyone knew him, name recognition. Why would you risk the party and the presidency on Pete Buttigieg, who doesn't have that much experience and can't even get the black vote?
Well, here's what I heard recently was that, I mean, this is pretty outlandish. There's no basis for this, but it's it makes a lot of sense where it's okay, we know we can't beat Trump with this old deteriorating white man. That's not realistic. Well, we're just gonna have to give this one up. We'll just throw John Kerry in there, and he's not gonna beat Bush. Yeah, and we'll save the young prospective one like Buttigieg next time. Or when we don't have to put him up against Orange Man.
I did.
Are they just calling it in before it is even over? Are they just we can't get this one? But put Biden in there. I guess it'll be fun. I guess.
Well,
I've heard that from multiple people.
I've heard that too with Andrew Cuomo, because he's being hailed as the hero from New York who's handling coronavirus fairly well. Out of a very dense population, how difficult is that to deal with in New York City? I can't even imagine. But I don't know. I think the Democrats have failed to learn from their past mistakes, and not that I want them to, but I also don't want. I want the GOP and the Democratic Party to just go away. You need to reform. I mean, and anyone who's making the argument that, the Democrats are the party of slavery because the Democratic Party were of the South, and that's not the same. It was 100
at this point, though. It's
right.
It's over 100 years ago.
Right. Same with the Republicans. The Republicans originally were the party that were against slavery. They formed in Wisconsin to stop slavery, and Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. Nowadays, he'd be a Democrat based on just general social policy. But why does that point even matter? The point is this duopoly and two-party system needs to stop. We need to have fresher ideas, or at least have two parties that are willing to have a conversation with people that they don't agree with 100%. Why are we cannibalizing Tulsi Gabbard because we don't agree with her foreign policy 100%? Oh, she goes on Fox News, so therefore we don't like her. That's what Biden represents to me. Biden, in the same way Hillary does, is the establishment saying that we don't like ideas that are not our own. It's the good old boys club. And here we are in 2020, and everyone's scratching their heads and saying what the hell. And the Democrats are they're split again because everyone's pissed off that Bernie didn't get up there again. And I'm laughing. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. But you both don't know how to fix your shit.
Right.
I mean, the GOP's leader is Trump. That's kind of crazy.
I think you made a really great point in there, and I think it would be great to bring that out to a close here. Is that the point is to have that conversation to, you can speak to it all you want to heal the divide between in the country, and Biden can say that shit to death. But at a certain point, it's you're still going to hold a virtual rally here in Milwaukee to kind of save face. And you can only put him out for 5 minutes at a time because he can't actually have a conversation without making a joke that blows up his campaign in one foul swoop. It's a joke.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, give him enough time and a mic, he'll probably talk about his leg hair again.
Right.
I mean, God. I know. The point is that both parties fail to acknowledge innovative, inclusive ideas. They don't like to have conversations outside their bubble, although I will say that Republicans generally are more, unafraid to go onto opposing networks. Like Tommy Lahren went on Bill Maher. Ted Cruz talks to MSNBC a lot. They aren't afraid to confront. And guess what? That confrontation and challenging of your ideas fleshes your ideas out and makes them better. Yeah. You sit down in a board meeting with your company and you have a bunch of ideas and you talk about things, and there might be 99 bad ideas but one good idea. But of those 99 bad ideas, more ideas might come out of those ideas, right? So like the conversation needs to happen. And the Democratic Party right now represents a closed door mentality. We want only what we want, period. Doesn't matter what the voters want, doesn't matter what the Republicans want. It's our way or the highway. And Trump is bad. Trump has a lot of shortcomings, and I will criticize him until I'm blue in the face, just as I will the Democrats, just as I will Nancy Pelosi, everybody. Yeah. But the point is, there's a reason why he's there. There's a reason why this divisiveness is happening. It's not just the GOP. The Democrats are almost equally, or if not more, to blame for how this has all happened. And Joe Biden is not the answer. 4 years of Joe Biden right now, with the stress of the presidency, I mean, God. Could you imagine what's going to happen if something terrible happens to this country with Joe Biden, who can't even speak properly?
I at the risk of running this way too long, but I just want to bring up this one last point that's been in my head, is that what I've seen this point made a lot too, where it's like, okay, we acknowledge that Biden is a terrible candidate. It's just gonna be like a horrible disaster with just him at the head. But we're not voting for him. We're voting for his cabinet. We're voting for the people that he brings in. Like, what do you say to that? And to try and bring us into a actual final point.
Yeah, I'll make a final point, and then we'll stop this, because I don't want to ramble too much about how terrible Joe Biden is, even though I could do it all night.
Oh yeah.
You can also do it about Trump. To be fair, like that's what I equally hate both parties. To be 100% clear.
There's the whiskey fueled opinions we promised.
Yeah, there's the whiskey fueled opinions. I hate everyone. Except for Justin Amash. Please get back in the race. No, I understand that. I understand that a lot of the liberal vote is hoping that Biden makes just better decisions as far as who's appointing the Supreme Court. I get that, but the problem with that, though, is you're not making any arguments for the future. You're not making policy arguments. You're still making the arguments that Trump is bad. And if your platform is so hollow that the only genuine thing you can run on is that you're better than the other guy, you're not that great. You know, yeah, okay, you might make a decent Supreme Court pick. You might make a good cabinet pick. Guess what? Trump did those things. Neil Gorsuch is an incredible scholar, and he's one of the top, guys right now in the Supreme Court. He's great. And a lot of liberals are going to shake their heads and go, whoa, he's against abortion. It's like, no, he's not. He's an independent judge who has the same voting record as Merrick Garland, who Obama was trying to appoint. Mm-hmm. And he's agreed with Kagan and Sotomayor on a couple cases already. They're not liberal or conservative. We have to get out of that political space for the court. That's a big point, though, right now for Roe v. Wade. They want to preserve that. And, Trump also did with Mattis, General Mattis, who's since I was going to say retired. That's not true. He quit. He quit because Trump's crazy. But yeah, I mean, Trump made good picks. He didn't make all the good picks. He made some pretty bad picks too. Rex Tillerson for Secretary of State. Ugh.
Right.
He has no experience in that. He's an oil guy. But okay, so Biden surrounds himself with some great people. And he has a young, vibrant, amazing, he claims will be a woman VP, a female VP. Okay, great. Groundbreaking. Amazing. Good for you. What does that matter? You're the president. You are still the figurehead of this country, and you can't talk correctly. Is your plan to just let your underlings do your bidding, and you just sit and look pretty for other figures of state to visit you and for camera opportunities? What happens when something bad happens? Are you going to unite this country like George Bush did? George Bush didn't speak at a college level, but he sure was a man of the people. He knew how to speak to America, Republican or Democrat, it did not matter. And Biden can't do that. I don't want that man anywhere near the presidency.
To make the opposing point, it kind of sounds a lot like what Trump's plan was when he got into office. Like, I'm just going to sit here and look pretty while I let everybody else do my job.
100%, and I don't like Trump either. I don't think this is why 2020 sucks. We start with, unfortunately, Kobe Bryant passes away in January. Terrible. I was torn up about that.
Yeah.
And then in February, we were potentially going to war with Iran, because of the nuclear scare, and
And then you missed the fires in Australia too.
The fires in Australia.
Yeah.
Like, rapture is happening in 2020, and we're all just like, I don't want to wear a mask. That's what we're fighting about right now. Yeah. I don't. It's everyone's an expert listening to YouTube videos, and now here's another YouTube video for you to be an expert on. But my point is, Biden's terrible. The Democrats have not learned a thing, and they need to get their crap together to be a part of the solution. They shouldn't be the only answer. The Republicans should not also be the only answer. It should be if it's going to be two parties, both parties need to band together and fix this in a compromising way with conversation and dialect and better rhetoric, because Trump's rhetoric is shit too. Look at Twitter. So that's my final point. I'm going to keep rambling. I don't want to keep drinking whiskey.
I like the point you made about having the conversation about expanding what you believe by hearing other people's points. And I think this is a great avenue to do that. I think we even said like a year ago when we started putting this together, that's what we wanted to do, was to have that conversation. And I feel very honored that I can have that with you, and I want to keep it going. So,
well, absolutely. I'll be the first to admit that, I have my opinions, but, it doesn't matter how many credentials I may or may not have, or how much experience I may or may not have. We all have a lot of room to learn and grow. And I think having conversations like this and even letting myself spin my wheels on certain issues with you or with anybody else I might talk to, especially with a glass of my favorite whiskey by my side, it helps. It helps for us to understand different issues in a different light. And this won't exclusively be politics. We'll talk about other things too. But
absolutely,
allowing us to verbalize and kind of, look at ourselves in the mirror while we're doing that is so important. And I think if we can continue this amazing dialogue, it's an honor to have you here with me to do this. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to make some conversation.
Yeah, the Kogan conversation. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, you bet, man. I appreciate it. And for all you listening, I appreciate it. Keep clicking on our podcasts as they come out. I really enjoy doing this with my buddies, and we hope to keep going forward and making this grow as much as possible. I won't bore you with any more spiels. I appreciate it.
Visit our website.
Yeah, and please visit our website, thekoganconvo.com.
All right. I think that's a good place to leave it.
All right, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. You take care.
Absolutely. Yeah, you too, man.